25 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Welcome back, Paul Catalina and our good friend Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com. Zach, thanks as always for hopping on. Today, Texas State starts that process, I guess, officially of moving to the Pac, board meeting on Monday, and then they'll accept the invitation and not pay as much money as if they waited till Tuesday and all these things that they have to do. What is your feeling on what this means for Texas State, for that new Pac-12, and for the Sun Belt and the domino effect of everything that happens after?
Great question. I think for Texas State, it's a moment of recognition. Even though we can all agree that the Pac-12 is not what we all grew up with, that name still means something. And to the layman that doesn't follow college sports the way we do, leaving the Sun Belt for the Pac-12, it's that moment that, hey, what you've done, what you've accomplished matters. You mean something at this level of college football. Even though the Sun Belt has done a great job in these last decade of, clearly surpassing Conference USA. I was reading a quote from Louisiana Tech's AD from just 5 years ago, kind of laughing at the idea of Louisiana Tech ever joining that conference, because he was like, well, they're going to want to join the Sun Belt schools are going to want to join the Conference USA, and now Conference USA schools are joining the Sun Belt. So I don't think it's going to be that great. It's not going to be an enormous leap football-wise from the Sun Belt to the Pac-12, because the Sun Belt is a very competitive league. But I think from brand recognition, it means a lot. And it's going to mean a lot for Texas State to have Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, Fresno State, had all those schools come to San Marcos and play football, basketball, baseball games.
So Louisiana Tech now moves into the Sun Belt, which is that's a fun league. You mentioned it. They've been pretty good. They kind of take the Texas State spot where I guess they'll intend to move into the Sun Belt. So Conference USA and the Mountain West, to me, are these two leagues that are kind of stuck now, aren't they? Like, do they have to ask themselves, like, what do we do?
I think what they do is from year to year, they do their best to survive. And Conference USA in particular has arguably been the biggest loser outside of the Big East and the Pac-12 from this last 20 years of conference realignment. They were the American before the American. They were easily the top group of five league, even though we didn't really have that term, east of the Mississippi when it came into being, when they had Houston, Louisville, Cincinnati, UCF. So now it's trying to build some semblance of continuity. Although you've lost UTEP, now you're about to lose Louisiana Tech. Finding schools that want to be there. Western Kentucky, I believe, is their longest standing member now. I don't know exactly how long they've been there. Don't force me to answer, but I'm going to say they've been there 10-ish, 15, somewhere in that range. So it's finding schools that want to be in your conference. Delaware is set to join. Missouri State is set to join Conference USA, simply because that's what they need to do to survive.
What do you think about Sacramento State hiring Jeffrey Kessler? I talked to Stuart Mandel earlier, right after you're done. We're going to play that interview. And they're trying to just money whip their way in, but nobody knows where the money's coming from.
Yeah, I got a big kick out of their story that they had $35 million committed to NIL, once they got into the Pac-12, and obviously the Pac-12 is not happening. I think they've decided that they can just kind of bluster their way into FBS, and so far it has not worked. And a lot of FCS schools are kind of pointing and laughing at them, because it's not like this is North Dakota State that's decided we're too good to play in FCS. If North Dakota State decided that, everyone would be like, yeah, I see where you're coming from. Sacramento State had a very, very brief moment of success under Troy Taylor, who then went to Stanford, is no longer there. They play in a basketball arena that's smaller than most 3A high schools, certainly smaller than most every 4A high school in Texas. This is a program that's just cited, not wrongly, but we are the largest metro market in the country without NFL or FBS football. So we're going to go make that happen. And we have the money to do so. But they don't have the support of anyone else outside of Sacramento. And they decided that they don't really need that. As long as they have Jeffrey Kessler on their side, then they can make it happen. And so the NCAA denied their waiver, although it approved Liberty's waiver 2017, that Liberty joined FBS without a conference and now is in Conference USA. They decided to not let Sacramento State do the same. They've hired Jeffrey Kessler, as you mentioned. I'm sure Stuart has better insight into this, but I believe their argument is probably going to be on the lines of, well, Fresno State, San Jose State, San Diego State, they're all Cal State schools just like us. They don't have the right to deny us membership to their conference. And I don't have any idea if that strategy is going to work.
Yeah, it's so very bizarre what they're trying to do, and it's one of those things. Like, I kind of get it. Like, I get that you like want to do this, but there's no guarantee that this money is going to all come back to you either when you spend it.
Yeah, and I was reading Stuart's story today. That said that they have $300 million is what he said committed to building a new stadium. And once they get their new stadium, they'll get to FBS. And the quote from the president was, "Our media deals will stop being in the hundreds of thousands and start being in the millions." And I realize it's funny money we're dealing with, and the stadium money would come out of different buckets and then the athletic department money and all that stuff. But we're spending $300 million to go get $7 million a year from potential Pac-12 membership. I found that dichotomy a little bit humorous. And the other thing is FBS independence doesn't really even exist anymore. Yeah. Like Notre Dame's independent, and obviously they're Notre Dame. The only other school left is now UConn. UMass is joining the MAC. Army and Navy have joined conferences. So UConn is really the last true independent in FBS, and we all know why they're independent. They're an FCS school that plays really good basketball, and so that's allowed them to remain in FBS for the most part. Mm-hmm. Sacramento State does not anywhere in the same galaxy as UConn in basketball. So to think that they could just kind of bluster their way into making this happen, it's been fun to see it watch. I just don't see how it's going to be successful.
Zach, you did a Twitter poll, which is obviously the best way to research things nowadays.
Of course.
About how closely fans follow recruiting. I think that if you had done this poll 5-6 years ago, it would have been flipped. I think there's a lot more people now that like they know who the guys are, but they're not as into it because why get attached because of the transfer portal?
Yeah, and that was a lot of the responses. The most common response from people that said that they don't follow it nearly as closely as they did NIL and pre-transfer portal. And I mean, it's hard to argue with that stance. I will say if the House settlement works as intended, which is big if, I think recruiting will start to matter more, and the ability to just buy a roster is going to get a lot more difficult because coming up, if I sign a 2-year NIL a rev share agreement with Florida State and I want to leave after a year and I would owe a $500,000, $50,000 of buyout money to Florida State, and I want to leave Florida State and go play for Ole Miss. Well, all of a sudden now Ole Miss would owe Florida State $50,000, whatever my buyout figure is. And so quickly now Ole Miss would have to decide how much am I really worth that? Is it really worth what you're going to have to pay me on top of paying my buyout? I don't know if that's going to hold up in court. Frankly, I hope that it does because I think we need, soccer-style transfer fees, mainly from the Power Four down to the Group of 5, Group of 6 to I think USC needs to compensate San Jose State for developing their players after 2 years. Ohio State needs to compensate Cincinnati or Miami, Ohio for developing their players to let Miami of Ohio go find their next kid that they're going to develop. So that's a long story longer. If the House settlement works as intended, I think recruiting might matter more because I think being able to just hoard players in the portal is going to be more difficult.
Yeah, Yeah, I like that idea. I know there was a coach that brought it up recently about, look, if that's just what we're going to be, I'm happy to be the guy who gets these guys more money and develops them. But, like, you got to pay me for it. Like, you got to make sure that, like, you're paying, like, the transfer fee is the best way to talk about it, because how many guys, get into the Premier League because they're dominating, in the champ, in the other levels, So yeah, I think that is the best model, because otherwise there's just going to be, it's just going to be so confusing and all that. I do think that the House settlement will work at least partially as intended. I still think though, Zach, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, that it's going to be really hard to get around some collectives that have just decided we are spending this money and we will figure out a way around no matter what, because that's what they've always done, no matter what the rules were.
Right. And as annoying as certain parts of this era have been, I think we all need to remember that this era came about because the Supreme Court ruled that the NCAA's business model was illegal, and the money that had propped up this enterprise had been illegally stolen from players. And just now, these football and basketball players are getting the money that they've earned, that they produce, to create this entire system that we all enjoy, that you and I have jobs from. So I'm hesitant to lay too many criticisms of this era, because I think we finally have some needed justice for these guys to go out and make this happen. Having said that, I think what we're doing now is just push it. We've pushed all them. There was no need to be secretive from 2021 to 2024, because you could just funnel that money through a collective. You didn't need a children's hospital like LSU did. Just put it in the collective, go give it to the player. Now we've proven that there's a market for these guys' services, and it's not going to be satisfied by just this salary cap that a court settlement that a lot of players and collectives and businesses were not party to. So you're now telling me I have to abide by this agreement that I was not party to, and if not, bad things happen, well, I'll just funnel that money back under the table the way we did from 1869 to 2020. So I think that's what's going to happen, because I think anyone who thinks that legally the money's just going to go down is delusional. So frankly, I don't know, Deloitte and what army give them the power to say, no, you're not allowed to make this sort of money. In my belief, capitalism is you're worth what someone's willing to pay you. And I think these guys are still going to get paid, over the table or under the table. They're going to get their money.
Yeah, they are. They're going to find a way. And to that, you're a really interesting couple of pieces of Football Scoop about, you got into Texas A&M's recruiting, like massive recruiting staff, and Michigan's. Even when I read it, I was still surprised at how much those guys are getting overall. Like they're paying them a lot of money to not be on the field coaches. That kind of shows you where this is headed, isn't it?
Right. I mean, it's been fascinating to watch this all play out, because it's been a little bit different from school to school, whether the GM is the guy making all the important decisions, or he's a figurehead, or he's just your old player personnel coordinator with more money and a better title. At Texas A&M, they had a 10-man and woman recruiting staff, with the highest is $200,000. And I believe we're going to find that that's on the low end for your general manager or senior ranking personnel official. Michigan has Sean McGee. They have a 3-year contract where they'll pay him $360,000 to be their general manager this year, $370,000 next year. Just down the road at Ohio State, Mark Pantoni is making close to $1 million. I don't have the numbers in front of me. And Mark Pantoni is the best in the business. But you're finding a lot of these guys that are making low 7 to high 6 figures. So $360,000, I think, is a steal. $200,000 at Texas A&M is a bargain. And if I'm Derek Miller, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions, because the guy to his left, Brandon Harris at Texas, makes $600,000 to be the general manager at Texas. And Steve Sarkisian will tell you he's really the general manager. At LSU, Austin Thomas, he's making $700,000-$800,000, I believe. So for Texas A&M to be at 200, I believe we'll find that that's going to be below market rate. But there's other schools in the SEC I know that don't even pay anywhere close to $200,000. So all of this, we're in the personnel world is kind of, we're kind of making it up as we go, figuring out how much this position is really worth at a dollars and cents figure. And it's just been fascinating to me to kind of peel the cover back on that regard, on that area of college football, because there's been so much written about how much ADs make, coaches, assistant coaches, and this is the new frontier of the sport.
Yeah, it really, I do see an era where the head coach is essentially the only one who really recruits, and that's only towards the end, right? Or like in little spots where you have the general manager and his recruiters, and then the position coaches and head coaches come in, as needed, as opposed to them being the ones on the road.
Yeah, I certainly see that.
It's still off a little bit in the future, but I do think that that's probably where it's headed.
Yeah, one big development there is removal of the 10 on-field coaches. You can still only have 10 coaches go out on the road and recruit for you, but now you're basically unlimited on the amount of guys that can coach on the field. So if you have an older coordinator who doesn't not the best guy to go, drive up and down I-20, the I-20 corridor in the Dallas area to pound the pavement to find players, but he's great. With mom and dad and kid, in the film room, that could be his recruiting contribution. And then you can have a younger guy who may not be one of your 10 on-field coaches go out and be off the field or go recruit off the field. But I think we're still a bit of ways away from the traveling salesmen of full-time recruiters, of guys that don't even coach, because eventually mom and dad are still going to want to have personal relationships with their position coach, the guys that are going to be coaching them. So I think you're going to see it a little bit, on a case-by-case basis.
I think it'll be very gradual, but I think there'll be a thing where those guys are essentially closers, and the starters are the guys who go out there and they'll be there too. Like, hey, I'll be there with you. I'll be there with you at Michigan State. Yeah, just wait, and then, you go, and then, the next day the position coach calls. She's like, hey, Zach, really, really would love to have you here in East Lansing. Why don't you come up? We'll hang out. And then that's where it starts, as opposed to the grind of, it's a bye week. Now we have to go to 20 high schools. I think that might go away too. So, but it's going to be 15 years. Yeah.
Or you could be Deion Sanders and be a Big 12 head coach and not even leave your house.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to just spend the first, 30 years of your career becoming the most famous person you can. I mean, that's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to do. Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com. Great website. I go to it every single day. Zach, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon. Will we see you at Big 12 Media Days? I asked you this already.
I hope so. I have no firm plans to be there, but if I can be there, I will be.
Okay. Good deal. All right. Hope that we get to see you there at Big 12 Media Days. That's Zach Barnett, footballscoop.com. Stuart Mandel of The Athletic is next. This is 365 Sports.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream.